Friends, welcome back to the Eaton Homestead. I'm Danielle, and we have a lot to update you on. There's a lot going on around here. We've got lots of changes anticipated this summer. Definitely growing our homestead, which I'm pretty excited about. Probably what I'm most excited about right now is these awesome window shelves that Nate built for me. They're just made out of a piece of plywood and some chain that he hung from the window itself. And so the second one hangs from the first one. And they are pretty awesome. So this has essentially doubled my window space, which was a challenge last year. It was a challenge last year because I started over 300 tomato plants. I don't know why. This year I only started about 100 extra than what I need, so I'm gonna call that an improvement. I think that's me getting better. I am super excited about these window shelves. They're making it a lot easier to get stuff out into the windows. Up here in Maine, I'm zone 5B, so kind of on the colder side. It's challenging to have a greenhouse. Up here, greenhouses definitely need to be heated in the spring. It's still dipping down to about freezing at night right now, and we are in early April. So I don't know, maybe a greenhouse will be on the plan in the future, but for right now, I don't really know how to make greenhouses work without having to heat them with a wood stove or some other source of heat. So our house works really well. We do have these really beautiful windows. When we built the house, we intentionally positioned it this way so that we could get the maximum amount of sunlight in through these windows and help to heat the house. So they make really great windows for starting seedlings in. And I have just been working feverishly to get my seedlings started, to get things potted up when I need to. Things like my tomatoes, my peppers have all been potted up now. We did have a little bit of a catastrophe. Uh, two of these shelves, I don't think that I had loaded them up. They are designed so that they're long enough that I could get 3 of the black trays on them, but we're concerned that it's too much weight to put 6 trays on these shelves. So right now I'm keeping it down to 4, but I think I had 4 trays on these shelves, and I was outside doing some more potting, and Nate came outside and was like, "We have a problem." And I came in to find that one of the shelves, the chain just snapped on it, and both shelves just dropped these 4 trays. Of course it has to be tomatoes because those are my favorite and the thing that I care the most about. Just like last year when we had the incident that Luna jumped up on the windowsill and knocked one of my trays down. Except this year it was 4 trays of tomatoes. So that was super frustrating. Thankfully, I had only potted up half of my tomatoes, so I had started 2 seeds in each cell and then just separated them. So I kept 1 of each kind in their original small cells, and then I had potted up half of them. So really only half of my tomatoes got totally jumbled. So I have the same problem that I had last year in that now I have 2 trays. I was able to figure out some of them. They landed in a way that they were still in their pot, but most of them I was able to save, but I don't know what variety they are because not everything had a label in its cup. I sort of label in like rows. So they are mystery tomatoes once again. I will also say that last year when this happened and the dog jumped up on the windowsill, which part of the point of these shelves is supposed to be to help prevent that from happening again, to prevent dogs from jumping up on the windowsill which they don't generally do. I have no idea why she did that. And to prevent my son, especially, who's 18 months old, from getting into the trays, which he loves to do because I watched a lot of gardening YouTube while he was in utero, and I think it's just going to be in his blood. So he's obsessed with the playing in the dirt and moving the tags around, and he always wants to water. As soon as the watering can comes out, he's on it, which is, of course, a little bit less than helpful at his age. So part of the point of building these shelves was to try and prevent this all from happening, and it just happened anyway. I was really panicked that the design itself wasn't going to work. I think we're thinking we found the piece of chain that broke, and it's really weird because it broke like right on one of the straight sections. So I don't know. It just was a weak link, if you will. And we fixed it and we're back up and running. It took a long time to clean up all that potting soil off the floor, though. That was a pain in the butt. Thankfully, Nate helped me because I was very frustrated. Last year when this happened, I definitely laughed about it. Like, I was a little bit upset, but I laughed about it. This time, I was not laughing. I was not happy. Just because it's so much work, so much hard work that just gets literally dumped on the floor. So that was a bummer. But anyway, the shelves are working out really great. I do still have things in rotation. So what I've been doing is I'm starting seeds in my little grow room, if you will, which is my laundry room / mud room where you take your boots off and hang your coat up and all that is what we have up here in the north. I took over a already very small space and put up some shelves and set up my grow lights, which are just regular shop lights. I'll put more information about that down below. I'll put a link to Gary Pilarchik of The Rusted Garden. I just followed his advice on his YouTube video, and they've been working out really well. Turns out you can grow. They don't have to be special grow lights. I do have 2 of the purple grow lights, but they were expensive and they're tiny. So when I saw this video and saw that you can start seedlings underneath regular shop lights, they do just need to be closer to the bulbs. So I have to lift the trays up with like boxes or egg cartons, or even my yoga blocks are in use right now, holding up trays so that the seedlings, the dirt itself, can be closer to the light to help those seeds germinate. So I've been starting things under the lights in there, and now I have all this wonderful space to move things out to once they get a little bit more established and grown up, which has worked out really well because, of course, lesson learned last year is things need to be started at different times. Last year I sort of just started everything, and I started it all way too early. But this is really my only 3rd year in gardening, so, you know, there's always a lot to learn, and that was one of the things that I learned last year is that things need to be started at different times. So I actually took this little calendar that has baby goats and baby sheep on it that my sister got me for Christmas because she knows me very well. And I used that calendar to mark out the weeks until our last frost date so that I could work backwards from there and sort of schedule everything out. So every week I have an idea of what seeds need to be started, and I've just been working on that rotation, and things go under the lights and then they move out to the shelves. So things like my tomatoes and my peppers and my eggplants are already established. Oregano and thyme, some of those herbs that take a little bit longer. I have now got, you know, the broccoli and the cauliflower. Now I have just put under the grow lights the cucumbers and melons and squash, which I usually don't start from seed, but last year I struggled a little bit with direct sowing my seeds and then having the little tiny seedlings just getting like eaten. I had to keep replanting my cucumbers over and over and over again. So I got these peat pots for Christmas as a gift, and I don't usually use them. I have just found in my very short gardening experience that they kind of deteriorate. They fall apart pretty quickly because they're made to decompose in the soil, right? You can directly plant them into the ground. So when you're starting things like tomatoes that are going to take a really long time inside, by the time you're getting ready to put those outside, they are just falling apart and crumbling apart. I'm hoping that these will work better for things like the cucumbers and squash that don't take as long, so they won't be in the house as long, and they will grow up quickly, and then hopefully I can get them right out into the ground and get them established that way. And hopefully they'll be a little less susceptible to the pests that just mowed down on all of my little seedlings last year. But that's kind of what's going on inside the house as far as seed starting is going. Um, in a few weeks, I'm trying to think of like the order of things. There's a lot going on. I believe next weekend is when our bees arrive. So a couple weekends ago, we spent the weekend collecting up all of our bee stuff, all of the boxes, the hives, the frames, and cleaning everything out. So Nate took a blowtorch to it to try and kill any bacteria or, pests that might be growing in there, just to kind of sterilize them. But we went and got the two boxes that we had down the road at a family member's little garden area. So we took those two boxes and we moved them over to our sister, Nate's sister. She and her husband recently just purchased a farm. It was previously a pick-your-own strawberry farm. It has a little shop right down by the road, a little farm stand with 2 greenhouses attached. It's just gorgeous. They have blueberries and raspberries and asparagus and all kinds of different trees growing and bulk materials like loam and crushed stone and whatnot, mulch. So we're really excited for them. They're going to be moving in pretty soon here. But because they've got so much stuff growing, we thought that a couple beehives would be beneficial. So we brought the hives over there and got those all set up so that those are ready to go when the bees arrive next weekend. So we'll be installing those bees into their hives, 2 over at their farm, the early farm, and 2 over here at the Eaton Homestead. Pretty excited to get those and get them established in their hives. We do also have a swarm trap set up out in the woods. It's kind of just an experiment to see if we can catch any swarms. We think that the hives that we had here, that one at least might have been a swarm because they were gone for sure. So we know that there's colonies around. We're just hoping to bring them back and keep them established so we can collect their honey, which is what it's all about. We were super bummed that bee school got canceled, but of course with everything going on right now, we're not surprised and we support the decision, but it was a bummer for me because Nate has already taken the course. I know next to nothing about bees. I'm his support when it comes to that. I'm not as interested in getting all hands in with the bees, but I do love the honey. I love the byproduct of the effort that we get to put into them. So that's happening next weekend, and then in a couple weeks, our meat birds arrive. Last year we did 14 or 16 meat birds. I can't remember. But this year we ordered 25 Cornish cross, which is what we did last year. We had really good success with them, results. But we needed to build a brooder. We, in the past, have only gotten maybe 6 chicks at a time, and we've just used like a big oversized tote, or I have like a big metal water trough that we kept them in last year, but it just wasn't enough floor space for the 16, 14 birds that we had last year, so we knew that we needed something bigger. So Nate just whipped up this brooder box out of just leftover materials that we kind of had in our trash pile, honestly, and put together a lightweight top to it so that once they get to that age, when they start flying up and trying to perch on the sides of the box, and then they inevitably get out and poop all over your basement, we can prevent that from happening because we've never put a top on them before. So it's got a nice wire top, which will also help to keep the dogs out should they get down there. They haven't generally been that interested in the chicks, but you never know. So we're all set up with that. We just need to go get our bedding and feed and all of that. But the tractor's ready to go, the chicken tractor that Nate built last year, just out of PVC pipe, some chicken wire, an old trashed tarp. It's pretty, thrown together, but it gets the job done, and it worked really well last year. So we know that it will work well this year too, and it was more than enough space for the 16 birds that we had, so I'm not worried at all about having 25 in there. But so that's coming up, and that's pretty exciting because we're down to probably our last couple packages of chicken. We've done really good in not buying chicken from the store. We've just eaten what we grew, which is the whole point of all of this, right? Is to be a little bit more self-sustainable. Times like these have certainly shown us just how dependent we are on our food systems, which are already broken. Um, so it's a nice feeling to know that you've got a freezer full of food that you grew. You know exactly what went into it. I just really like that feeling, and I feel that the food is just much better quality. And can you see that? It's like a spider web. I've only been here for a minute. Um, yeah, we feel that the food is just better quality for our family and tastes a whole lot better too. So there's that. What else is going on? Oh, so fruit trees. We also need to get those in sometime at the end of April. But we have decided to invest this year in putting some fruit trees in on our property. So we're going to be doing a few varieties of apples, a few varieties of pears, a couple peaches. We're going to try. I know that you can grow peaches up here. I called and spoke to somebody at Longfellow's. Her name is Jane. She's going to be my new best friend. Once this all lifts and I can actually go into the store and talk to her. But she has told me that peaches are possible to be done. Maine is kind of funny, and we're sort of close to being on borders of other zones, but we are technically in zone 5B. So I hope to be able to keep peaches alive. We'll see how that goes. But 2 peach trees and a cherry tree. So it's a big investment. We're doing our research right now just to make sure that we install them properly, that we plant them properly, and that we protect them properly. That is a concern of mine. We do have lots of deer around here. Not this winter, but the winter before, we actually had some bird feeders out in the backyard, and the deer claimed our backyard as their like evening dinner time buffet. So we kept feeding them. We kept putting food out there for them, and every night it was just like watching these huge groups of deer come and hang out in our backyard. So it's very cool. I love the deer. I love the meat that they also provide for us and our family. But I don't want them to eat my orchard investment. So I'm doing my research right now to try and make sure that we take the proper precautions against the deer. And then besides that, it's really just prepping the garden and getting ready for gardening season to get going. Our beds held up really well. They are looking great. I finally have been able to dig out all of the stuff that I was lazy and didn't pull out last year. I am going to be adding a little bit to the garden this year, so I'm planning in the back of the garden to do a little bit of Ruth Stout's method of like deep mulch planting. So I'm going to be putting down some hay and trying my potatoes out back there. The in-ground garden also needs quite a bit of work. We've struggled with this area every year. Our soil just isn't great. It's very clay, thick, heavy. Even though we have tilled it and tried to break it up, the rain packs it right back down again. So we're hoping to try and amend the soil, till it once again, put down weed fabric, which was the other challenge last year was it was just too big of a space for me to try and hand weed. We're hoping that by putting down the fabric, it will keep down the weed pressure and just make that garden area a little bit easier to manage for things like the zucchini and the summer squash and the pumpkins and the things that really like to sprawl and ramble all over the place, that they can have that space and not be taken over by weeds like they were last year. So we have lots to do and lots going on, lots of changes. We do have another big plan for the summer. I will leave that as a surprise until later, but we are finalizing our plans and getting our pricing so that we can work on that big project. Which will help Nate in that he'll have more space for his work-related things, and also hopefully help me get my dream animal. But I'll just leave it at that, and we'll let that be a surprise for another day. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me today. I'm really excited. sun is finally shining. It's finally warming up. The snow is all melted. I'm ready to get going. I'm just super excited for this spring and this summer and this gardening season, this, very fun, busy, active time after the very quiet, slow winter that we've had. So thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.